the cards out here. And
All right.
okay.
So I'm just going to start off with a quick introduction, and then we'll dive right into a little overview.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Hi, my name is Beth Hiley here for Board Game Geek TV at Gen Con 2014. I'm sitting down with Carrie Grayson of Z-Man Games. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent, thank you.
Oh, excellent. All right. It's nice to get a very positive, enthusiastic answer.
Well, it's pretty exciting, to have your interview with you and everything. So
I know, and you get this nice big space with no crowds when you come visit us.
it's different. It's crazy trying to get here. It took me about 20 minutes.
I'm sure and it's Saturday too, so it's by far the highest foot traffic day.
Yeah.
But you've brought us a big name in board games right now, which is Pandemic, and you have helped develop the Contagion.
Yes, that's correct. I designed the game not actually knowing it would become part of Pandemic, but luckily Zev and the Z-Man team liked it enough that they wanted to be part of the family, so I was thrilled.
I was going to say, this is a fabulous family to be a part of.
Yes, it is.
Both company and Endgame.
I was pretty shocked. But
All right, so if people say, well, I know Pandemic, since Contagion is its own self-standing game,
correct.
what do we expect when we open up Contagion?
Well, so this game is like a reverse Pandemic. So instead of being cooperative, it's competitive, so there's one winner. And instead of being the doctors trying to find a cure to eradicate diseases, you are now the disease, and there is no cure. So we're trying to wipe out humanity by spreading infection. Fun, family, kind of wholesome game.
Well, how many games do involve taking over the world, so...
Right, and in the course of a lunchtime. It's great.
All right, so I'm ready to infect some individuals.
Okay.
How do we go about doing so?
So, game has, let me talk briefly about the components. We have our Contagion cards, and these are all the different diseases that you can spread throughout the game. And then there are the city cards, and this is where you earn your points. So they come in different colors that depending, you have the continents that are represented on each one, and each continent is represented by a color. And if you didn't notice, and probably not, some of the contagions match the colors that are in play. So what you're trying to do is by playing one of the spread your infection action, you're going to take your disease and play it in that city. Now, when the number of disease cubes, so let me just throw a few on here so I can show you this as an example, matches the population number. So this is the population in millions, roughly, and each of these diseases represent 1 million infected souls, so that when the number reaches that number, then it's considered wiped out, and you can't add any more cubes because there's no one left to infect. So that wipes out the city. The player who played the last disease in that city gets to play the special action, and then the player who had the most of their disease, and let's just say it's like this, then that player gets to score the population number, and they move their token, which is the red player, up the value on the board. And each player who is involved in this would score for the second place and third place. Now this game has a tiebreaker, so in the event it's something like this, as I had before, the player who plays in the city first plays in the top line with their disease, and then the second player the next
cards are a little segmented here.
Yeah, so then that way we know who played in there first, and the player played in there first wins the tie. So this would go to red, and then second would go to blue, and third would go to yellow in that instance. It's possible you can only play one time in there, and you would still win the action, which would be a good reason to go in there because some of these actions are very favorable, and you might want to try it. So how do you put your diseases out there? You use these Contagion cards. So on your turn, you play a Contagion card that matches the color of the city. If you're already in the city, then you can play with one card and move a disease in there. However, if you weren't in there before, then you need 2 cards of that color. And in this case I don't, so I can play any 2 cards to be whatever color I want. And so in this case I would be able to play it inside. Now the number of disease that you play in there is based on your infection level. And this is how you make the disease stronger, which is another aspect of the game, is to drive up your mutations. So the more incubation and more cards you get to draw on your turn, you want to drive up your incubation level. For the number of diseases you want to play on the board, you drive up your infection level. And because during the game, humans are trying to stop you and just eradicate diseases, you might want to build up your resistance to protect you from their efforts. Now there's one more set of cards in here I haven't talked about, and that's the event cards. And the event cards essentially give you, for each round of the game, a different event that's going on that's either political, social, or weather related. And these can be helpful, or they might not be so helpful.
Yeah, this one seems probably helpful. A government collapse seems like that would benefit us.
So as the pandemic spreads, the government collapses, this gives you the ability to draw an extra card for every city that you infect at the end of your turn. And there's different ones. This one, in fact, is not helpful. Fewer people travel abroad. So in this case, you have to, you cannot infect a new city, and so on and so forth. One of the things that there's mid-game scoring in this. It's not just you score as you wipe these out. Right. And as you wipe these cities out, by the way, you flip these over so that you see the black side of the card there. This is wiped out. It's been eradicated. Now when the second...
city, not the disease.
Yeah, the city. That's right. And these go back to the player who played it. Now when the second, fourth, and sixth skull and crossbones come up, then that triggers a mid-game scoring. And for every city where there's infections going on, the player who has the majority of that city scores the smallest number on that card. And the end game essentially is when we are down to 2 cities left, or if we get to the last Who card in the deck, then we finish the round that we're in, and then we do a final round of scoring with the mid-game scoring I talked about. You score points for your
upgrades.
Your upgrades, correct. And you get your final score on the board here, and the person who has destroyed the most of mankind is the winner.
Do you play with just 6 cities? Is that?
No, I just put 6 up there for ease of explaining. For a 3-player game, you play with 8 cities. For a 4-player, 9, and for 5-player, 10. And then for 2-player games, we play with 6. And there's certain cards that are for 2 players only. Those are the only ones you play with because of the number on the card.
How long do you think a full game would take you?
The game takes about 30 to 45 minutes, depending on the number of players and if it's your first time or not. So in about the course of a lunchtime.
Now, since having this be part of the pandemic family was a bit of a surprise to you, did this have a different theme when it was first just an idea in your head?
Well, so the first time the idea came to me was after playing Pandemic and losing to the diseases again. I thought it would be an interesting variant if maybe one person could be a disease. And then I thought, you know, it probably wouldn't work very well. What if everybody got to play the disease? So I actually was designing this as a reverse pandemic kind of game.
Right from the start.
Yes. But I really wasn't thinking it would become part of the Pandemic family. So it was like, yeah, thrilled that it did. I wasn't expecting it though. So I'm a big fan of Matt Leacock and the Pandemic game and played it a lot. So it's kind of like a dream come true to be part of that family.
Well, Carrie, I thank you so much for stopping by and bringing us Pandemic Contagion. I hope this will become a nice counterpoint within the Pandemic family, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Thank you, Beth, for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Good night. Likewise.
Okay.